There's a lot of down bad people in the world, and when people are down bad, they listen to down bad music. So today, we're going to categorize this music on the down bad music compass. Each artist will fit somewhere between these two axes, autistic to neurotypical, and male manipulator to virgin. We're going to be covering a lot of artists from a lot of different genres, so we decided to match them with the kind of person we think would listen to them. Loser core. This person usually lands right in the middle of the IQ bell curve and comes with mid-wit music taste to match. They take pride in their music being weird, but they're more this strain of weird instead of the cool, artistic, nonchalant kind of weird. Modest Mouse. Now, there's a lot of funny lore about Modest Mouse. The lead guy got a DUI. He was also one of the only people of this time period to kind of defend selling out, because nobody thinks twice about selling out nowadays. Nowadays, you want all of our favorite artists to get as big as they possibly can. He was like, look, I came from a poor-ass family. What do you expect me to do? Not make money to support my family and my loved ones and just stay your favorite, whiny indie band forever? No. They're so uniquely down bad because it says something if Elliott Smith is supporting your band.
Are you familiar with Modest Mouse music?
I'm familiar with Modest Mouse. Yeah.
What do you think of him?
I like him.
Now, when it comes to Modest Mouse, their fan base is definitely old enough at this point.
That's true.
Where they might have been on one side back in the day, but they're different now. And if we're talking about down bad music in 2024, what do these fan bases look like in 2024? It's an older fan base. They've grown out of the whole male manipulator thing. They're probably more so in that irritating sort of perma-virgin territory. And so I'm leaning more towards virgin than male manipulator. So that's where I am with the x-axis. With the y-axis, right, I pull towards neurotypical virgin for the quadrant.
In 2024, there's a lot of old fans, but anybody young coming in is going to most likely appreciate a lot of their older stuff, and is probably going to be more autistic leaning.
I'll move it up to autistic. How's about that?
Considering some of the kind of spurgy aesthetics they took on later in their career, which were C themed stuff, which is that's
nautical.
Just odd. Nautical.
Yeah, nautical.
Sufjan Stevens. If Sufjan Stevens was more into rap, it would be Illinois instead of Illinois, because it's Illinois as in Chicago, Illinois, but it's Illinois. Yeah, but it's sick, and so he's trying to do a Beastie Boys thing.
So just the fact that I've seen it posted on 4chan a lot, we're probably gonna lean towards autistic here.
In 2024, if you're listening to him, it's either you're gonna be more queer or you're gonna be just nerdy. It's gonna lead towards way less neurotypical, so it's fair to say that. It probably would have been a lot more male manipulator and kind of douchey hipster weirdo to really boast that you were a fan of him more in the 2000s than it would be now. I mean, just considering how gay and sad his music is, that's gotta say something about your character.
Homo, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a safe little, that's a safe bet.
Pavement. Even though I knew people who listen to Pavement, there's nothing that specifically sticks out about Pavement fans to me. The only thing in my head that sticks out about Pavement to me is the fact that the only people I've known who really like them are more stoner leaning. But stoner isn't a choice on this chart.
Everybody smokes weed now.
Yeah, it's so
literally everybody. Yeah. So you can't even make a meaningful personality distinction off of if someone smokes weed or not.
If we're going outside of the whole stoner thing, they're so nonchalant. They're truly split between autistic and neurotypical.
Okay.
However, I want to say maybe they're more virgin leaning. Let's say that works.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. Red House Painters. They were the alternative to the alternative, which if you think about what was the popular alternative sound at the time, you have this grunge bullshit. The content of, if we look at that one album or release, the one where he makes the analogy of meeting friends that you haven't met in a long time and struggling to connect with them, to trying to speak Japanese and wishing he was in Japan. There's an autistic tinge to all of that.
I can see why he would attract a more virgin fan base, because we're going a bit off Red House Painters. I'm thinking more about Sun Killer Moon, because that's more what I've experienced with. The way that he writes, especially Benji, and then I went down to the store, and then I did this, and then I did, and then I felt X, Y, and Z, and we were eating crab cakes, and then there was a bunch of sports bar shit on the wall when we were at the sports bar, and I ordered crab cakes, and then we went to Pandora, and then I was walking up to see the guys from Red House Painters, because I hadn't seen them in a while, and so I had to walk up this long hill, and my legs were really tired, and then I realized how old I'd gotten. It made me really feel really bad. Every song is like that. The way he writes is like that.
It's got to be autistic.
Quarter tilt.
I can confidently say, it's a quarter tilt towards male manipulator, Slowcore is virgin territory, but by being so emotionally kind of sensitive and tender, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Primus. I'm going to say we do both of them at the same time. Primus and Ween, they're going to take up the same spot. Ween is just one of those bands where you have to like so autistically kind of get into to like really fully appreciate that. And I've seen that reflected in a lot of the fans.
Where we say Ween goes, I'm going to say Primus goes there, but a little bit higher, high enough for it to like be a bit separated because it's so focused on bass. Like who's that into playing bass? Yeah. Oh, he's so good at bass. Like
Primus is so quintessential loser core. Not in the like woe is me sad kind of loser core.
Ween's probably, it's going to be further over. Like, if we're talking nowadays, maybe 3/4 up then.
Sure. It's got to lean more towards Virgin. It's just so, like, male-leaning, I get no pussy type of shit.
Yeah. And Primus, right above, because who gives a fuck about bass that much?
Les Claypool. Sign crushes motorist. When I think of bro, I just kind of think of an Irish lad. And he kind of memes like that on his Instagram page a lot too, which is pretty funny.
As the Irish do, yeah.
Remember the fact that he also became like a TikTok sound for a minute? Yeah. We're attracting a different kind of fan of slowcore than we would with like Red House Painters. This is
definitely a younger fan base here.
They're not as male manipulator as Red House Painters.
I feel like they could probably eke into neurotypical.
That's good. Probably, yeah. Black Country New Road. I see their fans and Black Midi fans kind of like nerdy, proggy, jazzy, appreciative of like more like poetic type bullshit.
At least medium into the autistic version quadrant.
It's not going to attract the same like more maybe neurotypical leaning or male manipulator kind of person that I feel like Black Midi would. When one of the guys in their band left, he wrote a little post and quoted the professor from Futurama.
Yeah, okay. Enough said. Hey, let me get a buy that potato salad.
Zoomergaze. Zoomergaze is a label for a bunch of bands that aren't in the same genre, but whose music fits a similar vibe and is listened to by the same crowd, usually Zoomers, typically for the same reasons. It's also a term we pioneered because we just needed a title for our video essay about it. The people listening are usually sensitive young Zoomers, hence the name. Slow Dive.
You and I both saw Slow Dive together twice because we were filming content.
Oh, we even talked to them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're from the type of people I remember at those shows, I'm picturing more like the feeble, like little prey, like the creatures of prey that have like herbivore eyes, which is gonna make me go towards Virgin more so than Male Manipulator.
I feel like Slow Dive was up there for like some of like the essential bands when it came to Male Manipulator core. Yeah. I feel like they're perfectly half and half. Knowing how broad Shoegaze has gotten.
So 2024, I feel like it's more Virgin than Male Manipulator. I feel like Slow Dive is kind of out for the Male Manipulator canon in the year 2024.
Let's put him halfway between Modest Mouse and Pavement. Flying Fish. It would be funny if we just asked him where he should go.
Hey, DM him right now.
Flying Fish. According to him, we just messaged him. Sorry, I'm eating potato salad. He says, like, slightly neurotypical and, like, halfway virgin.
Okay, got it.
Wisp. Were. Not a lot of people know this, but Wisp is just one Asian girl.
It's one person, that's right.
That's right.
Specifically an Asian and a woman.
This is like real Zoomergaze shit at this point. Yeah. Like this is...
What's difficult is like differentiating between like, the fan base of Wisp or Flying Fish. Yeah. Or it's all like the exact same type of person. I think they should all go in exactly the same place. Wisp and Were, if you're into those artists in 2024, you're going to be much closer to the cutting edge of music. You're going to be a music nerd. So you are going to be on the side of Virgin here. I would put Wisp a little bit over on Male Manipulator. Yeah. And I'd put Were a little bit over here on Virgin.
It's like the Berlin Wall, right?
Exactly. It's like West Berlin and East Berlin. Exactly. Wisp and Were here.
That's fair. Title Fight.
Title Fight is one of those bands that can unite a bunch of different sub-niches of a niche, right? You're gonna have like the people that are into Midwest emo and they're like super fucking weird and awkward. Right. But then you're also gonna get people that are like more tapped in, know what things they're supposed to like to look cool. And I think that's really a defining factor of Male Manipulator being good at that. If you average everything together, and if you think about like all the girls that like Title Fight, all the guys that like Title Fight, there's a lot of guys that genuinely like Title Fight. There's a lot of people who can say they like Title Fight, for status or whatnot, within their own little, like, weird sub-niche community. I think I'm going to balance it out to lean more towards Male Manipulator. I don't think there's anything too autistic about Title Fight, especially with their newer stuff, post-Shed. That's gonna hone me in on the neurotypical Male Manipulator quadrant. It's past Wisp, but it's above Sign Crushes Motorist. There. I think they belong there.
They are gutting a body of water. Something I wanted to mention on the shoegaze doc that we had released, the Philly shoegaze scene.
Yeah.
The more I looked into it, the less surprised I was. I mean, like, if I was from Philly, I'd be making, like, really sad music, too. Like, you know, the same place where Kensington is. Like, you know, they do lean more virgin than were.
No, for sure, because what makes them more unique and why we wouldn't just throw them alongside with Wisp and with Were, their sound is different in that they are a lot heavier.
Yes.
They're a lot heavier, more aggressive drumming, and of course that's going to attract a more autistic fellow. More virgin than Were.
More virgin than
I would
Were.
agree with that. A bit more autistic than Modest Mouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Flush water.
When they first came onto the scene, it's so funny how this happens. Every single time, anytime a new band comes into the scene, if they're like kind of heavy, but like rock, but then they also have shoegaze elements, people are like, oh, dude, they're just like Deftones. It's just like Deftones. But it's new and it's Zoomer, and they have a girl in their band too, and she sings. There's only one culprit that would react that way. Only one culprit. It would be an autistic virgin.
100%. Julie.
Julie's really different in bucking the trend of a lot of the other Zoomergaze artists because they're really good at curating themselves. They're the first Zoomergaze band I've seen to like really put a lot of thought into aura.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it actually pays off. It actually works. It's not a LARP. Obviously, like they're thinking about it and they're very cautious of how they're perceived.
Yeah. You know that they're thinking about it for the sake of their art, not for the sake of like, you know, and that's rare for someone that you know.
You see them selling out, like the smaller venues that they're touring out with. They are attracting like a very like cool sort of fan base.
Yeah. Still some nerds in there, but still like,
for sure.
You know.
You're seeing a lot of just like shoegaze nerds.
Yeah.
But of the Zoomergaze umbrella, they're attracting the cooler people. And along with that, obviously, they're going to get moved much. I think they're pretty heavy into male manipulator just due to how well they're able to manicure their aesthetic and are able to attract the exact type of person they're looking for. I'm going to put them on the line because you still have a good mix of like shoegaze nerds while still producing a sound that is broadly appealing.
Yeah. Underground. This is the underground rap scene in 2024 with a few underground legends included. There's really only one legend here, but I'll let you guess who it is. Look, we're not going to experience the underground right now as like a 16-year-old right now would. You know, we have more perspective on this. Yeah. That being said, it doesn't matter, though. It's whatever. The underground's the underground. It's always going to be a place to be, and you're always going to want to try to escape it.
It's always going to be crabs in a bucket pulling each other down.
Exactly.
Which is why it's so impressive, the collection of artists we have here.
Black Cray. The kind of underground person who would have been listening to him back in like the Young Lean Performs at V-Files era, they still would have been like online. Nowadays, we're dealing with like some TikTok influence. This puts Black Cray not too far up into the autistic axes, but definitely pushed into like version territory.
Yeah, it probably got pushed into version a bit more. It's drifted a bit over the past couple of years, going from like, oh, this is interesting to like borderline esoteric knowledge.
Right.
Where like you have to explain to someone who he is, his connections, work with Blade, Filthy, etc. They're like goofy kids who are like online. They're on Discord heavy.
Exactly. Chief Keef. Anybody who's chronically online knows there is a lot of like chronically online white boys and even like white rappers who really love Chief Keef. I think they are a loud and vocal minority. Chief Keef's audience, because of like his track record, still leans more neurotypical. Now, if we're talking between male manipulator and virgin, I would lean it more towards male manipulator.
It's not quite in the traditional sense or definition of male manipulator. Yeah. But it makes more sense than virgin. Yeah. When you're that big and you're that mainstream.
Exactly. Joey. Mr. Kissy Face himself.
Everything we know about the Joey fan base, obviously super online. We're not going to shy away from the fact that there's a Sam Hyde fan base crossover. That should tell you a lot of what you need to know. Obviously, there's a lot of people who aren't into Sam Hyde or like know who that is even, who are still in the underground and fuck with Joey. It's going to be hella autistic. It's going to be hella virgin. It's going to be pretty far up there.
But irony does not necessarily equal autism. That's my problem that I have with it. You could pull a baddie and still be into papyrus irony. Okay. I feel like. I want to put him, considering how many guys there were at his show.
Yeah. How many chicks were there?
I'll be fair with that. Yeah, there weren't many. So that's fair.
There. Okay.
Perfect. Laserdim 700. If we're putting Joey that far into virgin territory, Laser's got to go like higher up and further towards virgin.
He's definitely over in virgin because he's attracting the type of people who I'll have like seen him interacting with women, and it's the most robotic, funny shit to watch.
It's the craziest
we gotta throw in some clips or something.
I model. For real. Mm-hmm. Facts. What, you like blacks?
So I think Laserdim's gonna be extreme virgin. I think Laserdim fans are like non-verbal and they're as autistic as Primus. Laserdim 700 really is the Primus of the modern day 2024 underground rap scene.
And we're lucky Brennan Jones isn't up here because he'd be the Black Country New Road of the rap scene. Laserdim, you're going there. Kenyatta Carson. You love him, you hate him.
Some people love to hate him. He just sold out the Roxy here in Atlanta. That's I think a 2,000 or 3,000 cap venue here. You know who the last person I saw sell out the Roxy was in Atlanta? John Mayer. He's quickly surpassing John Mayer in technical ability, in skill, in aura. He's been surpassed John Mayer in beat selection. I haven't heard John Mayer like select a good beat in a while now. Oh man, it's so hard to play Neon. Like
what is John Mayer doing? He's playing with Dead & Co.
That shit's for the birds. I'm sorry.
Ken, I'm gonna say this: your fan base is obviously more mainstream now than it was in the past. And sincerely not as autistic as they used to be.
I'm still gonna favor autistic to neurotypical.
Sure, that's fair.
Obviously, his fan base is more autistic than Black Cray, even as it's scaling up. We've seen that from firsthand experience.
Right.
So we know that we're at least here to here. Would you say that Ken Carson's fan base is more or less virgin than Fleshwater?
Way less virgin than Fleshwater.
There's probably enough male manipulators in Ken's audience to justify him being on the upper left quadrant.
Considering how broad he's getting, I wish we could put him like right over Red House Painters, low-key.
More or less autistic than Slowcore?
He's way less autistic than Slowcore.
Okay.
Yeah, that feels fair.
Okay, perfect.
That feels fair.
Great.
Edward Skeletrix. Looking at the fan base, I want to say maybe a tinge more autistic than Joey.
Okay, so we're gonna have like a quick little cascading effect here.
Right. Do you think they have potato salad on Skeletrix Island?
If they did, it would look like this.
I checked out.
Xavier So Based.
If you have based in your name, you've locked yourself into autistic version as a quadrant.
Yeah, I mean, because still, like, even though, like, based has become, like, very broad as a term, the way he's using it is obviously referencing an older...
Yeah.
It's referencing Little Bass. So...
Hell yeah, I go stupid, lead. Ask my bitch why she support me, why she believe in me. Top floor, looking out the window, love the scenery. Yeah, I'm getting money, yeah, but it don't mean shit to me.
Yeah, that's autism. Just as autistic as Joey, for sure. Even though Joey's fans are a little bit of a different breed of autism.
Yeah.
It's all hard to say, too, because, I mean, when they're in this underground state, it's all, like, you know, the same kind of people that are coming together and, like, listening to this music. Like, a lot of shared territory. So I don't think it's too unfair to, like, put, you know, Xavier, Edward, and Joey all in this kind of, like, little Bermuda Triangle we have going on right over here. Net spend, I don't think, has eked far enough in a male manipulator. I think he deserves to go above Black Cray, underneath Tagabow.
There's a surprising amount of like young women that are into like getting into net spin, like, or the underground via net spin.
Right.
He has like a boyish charm to him, and probably when he looks at you, you might feel like you're the only one in the room, and his eyes are so bright that, you know, probably sends like electricity down your spine. And if there's any rapper in the underground that's starting to gain like a boy band type fan base with a lot of girls, it would be Netspin. We're not saying June 21st, 2024. We're saying 2024. And so I bet on aggregate, by the end of 2024, 100%. He's going to pull further into male manipulator fan base far enough to bring him, because it's still underground, so it's still heavy autism.
Yeah, right there. That's perfect.
That's it. That's net spin. And this is potato salad.
His hair is kind of the same colors as potato salad, like all yellow. Beep Boop. Completely stupid title, but this is electronic music. True electronic fans seem to be split between rich older guys who can afford modular synths or trans DJs. Sweet Trip. They do have like a little bit of that shoegaze influence along with being IDM, but both genres being kind of like for more tender people still. Mm-hmm. But with tenderness comes a little bit of male manipulator. We are most certainly leaning towards autism. Probably the same level of net spend. Firmly virgin, like to the right of net spend, like mirroring net spend.
So Sweet Trip is like the inverted net spend of the IDM shoegaze combination world.
Sophie. By virtue of how many non-gender conforming or trans people that Sophie's music attracts, it obviously puts it up into the sphere of autism.
I think Sophie should go over here just because it's that brand of hyperpop.
Especially now that she's passed on, it's going to attract more nerds, I think, who like appreciate it, you know, in retrospect. So I feel confident in your placement, like putting it a little bit more towards virgin. Over time, it's probably going to become more of like an autism thing.
Bogdan Rzinski.
It's interesting seeing how much more clout he has now. It only makes sense considering how much Aphex Twin has become more popular in the culture, and that people like Bogdan Rzinski would become more popular as a result of that. I mean, if you look at like interviews with the guys who did like the Stranger Things soundtrack, you are going to see them list Bogdan Rzinski as an influence. I'll put that here.
We grew up listening to Aphex Twin, Autechre, and Bogdan Rzinski.
Bogdan deserves to go the left of Edward Skeletrix, but as high up as Edward Skeletrix, because he's not as virgin leaning anymore now that he's gaining a little bit more clout. But he's still on like the same like tier of like autism probably. Yeah, if it feels fair to put him maybe even a little bit lower. Yeah, that's good. And then maybe a little bit more to the left. Perfect.
Pump it.
One out tricks point never.
At one point, it would have been way more autistic and virgin leaning. Now, considering like the kind of ground he's covered, again, we're talking about 2024. This is past like the whole like, you know, working on echo jams, like doing like, you know, vaporwave stuff, to where he is now working with The Weeknd. I think allows him to be reined back from the kind of harsh autism and virginity that he once might have consumed on this chart. Let's put him close to Tagapow.
If he's worked with online ceramics, that makes me want to put him on this side.
You know what? Honestly, that's even more fair.
Yabujin.
A lot of his aesthetic is based off of like image manipulation.
I mean, yeah, Weirdcore and Yabujin,
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
It's one and the same. And that's something that's definitely going to scare away anyone that's even close to neurotypical.
I was so early to Yabujin, way before any of y'all even knew about him, bro.
We're usually first before anyone else on most of these things.
High up on the autism scale, like definitely like below Black. It's hard because we put Black Country New Road so high up that now like that has to be like the real like
milestone, the bookmark.
Even like if we're talking about like the way like females like use Weirdcore aesthetics and like their relationship with Yabujin, it's still in a very like femcelly type way.
Right.
I do feel comfortable putting Yabujin there.
More virgin than Ween, a bit less autistic than Primus, more autistic than Ween.
Jane Remover.
Less autistic than it probably used to be.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty easy to get less autistic than Daria Core.
Yeah.
Probably even below Netspin. How about this?
Mirroring Fleshwater feels pretty safe. Yeah. That feels like a good move.
Orca.
I wouldn't say like female manipulator territory, but it's not virgin territory either.
Right.
Halfway through autistic, probably close to Jane Remover, less autistic than slowcore. Yeah.
Screaming and crying and shitting. Some scrams, some Midwest emo, and lots of allegations in your local scene probably. Catalyst. Versus Self. Your arms are my cocoon.
Largely here, we're going to be talking about scrams.
Second wave emo, scrams, emo violence, that all kind of falls within this category here.
It's closer together than not.
Right.
Historically, kind of autistic. Having the exposure on TikTok, it still has like that tinge of being chronically online. There's also the fact that like there's such like a large like physical presence to like this scene.
I want to do a sort of cascading combo here.
Sure.
And my three candidates are going to be Versus Self, Catalyst, and Your Arms Are My Cocoon.
Right.
So here's what I'm proposing. Versus Self, Catalyst is a happy medium, and then Your Arms Are My Cocoon is going to be the most autistic version because of how crazy and distressed the vocals are.
Yeah, and how lo-fi it is.
Exactly, lo-fi as well.
Widow Dusk.
They're really in like the same kind of category as Catalyst. They have less going on, just like neutral in everything that they do, I gotta say. They're gonna be left of Catalyst, but on the same scope of male manipulator to version.
Joyce Manor.
Joyce Manor is a funny one. Here's why. You have the autism and like pent up little, oh, I'm such a ball of nerves. I'm nervous at parties. I don't.
More cloying and annoying kind of Weezer type vibes.
Exactly. Joyce Manor is that vibe, but made in a really broadly appealing and commercial sort of way, which is gonna make me want to put them further down into neurotypical. Last version, because again, it's watered down. Not as neurotypical as something like Slowdive, but they're not as virginal as something like Versus Self. Would you say that's fair? There's lyrics about like being with the girl in the first place who's supposed to be really attractive, and then she's breaking your heart later. I kind of want to pull that a bit more towards a male manipulator now. They made Pinkerton broad. Yeah, okay, yeah. That's Joyce Manor.
There you go.
Brave Little Abacus.
Okay, hear me out.
See, now that feels a little bit more normal.
What do we think of that?
That feels good.
Sunny Day Real Estate.
They're not as neurotypical as Chief Keef, I'll give them that.
Less neurotypical in Joyce Manor. I'd agree with that.
Hang on, I know how to fix this. Actually, Chief Keef kind of belongs down here now.
100%, yeah.
That makes more sense.
Heavy metal. It just doesn't get any heavier than this, man. This is heavy friggin' metal, dude. Black Sabbath. Metallica.
Now we're getting into like real neurotypical,
We can finally start buffing out the other categories outside of our normal forte.
Yeah, we have to set Metallica first. We got to put them like at the peak of like neurotypical kind of like metal. And I think we should honestly put them between Male Manipulator and Virgin because we're talking about the sample size of like how big their fucking audience is.
Billions and billions
And as for Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath is just a bit behind and to the right.
Yeah.
Dark Throne.
The only image I have in my head of people who listen to black metal, even if you're a cool person, whatever it might be, is going to be this guy.
Dark Throne is the screamy scream form of metal. If you're either closed-minded or simply locked well enough into your own personal musical biases to know it ain't your cup of moonshine, I recommend you familiarize yourself with the back button on your internet browser and leave the pissing and moaning where it belongs, in poorly animated hentai.
He's got that body type where you can tell he subsists off of 7 Ritz crackers a day and the occasional Pop-Tart. It's like the last bastion of that type of amazing atheist type commentary YouTuber guy,
Yeah.
I don't think it's Male Manipulator at all. I think they fit in that little spot we made
I totally agree. I'm going to read you a piece from Dark Throne's Wikipedia article. Originally, the back cover also bore the words Norsk Arisk Black Metal, Norwegian Aryan Black Metal. Due to negative feedback from many distributors, however, the phrase was removed. The band also intended to issue another controversial statement to mark the album's release. We're not talking about Transylvanian Hunger here, the most well-known release. We would like to state that Transylvanian Hunger stands beyond any criticism. If any man should attempt to criticize this LP, he should be thoroughly patronized for his obviously Jewish behavior. In a press release, Peaceville Records issued both this statement and their own response, berating the sentiment, acknowledging that they could not censor their artists. Dark Throne issued a formal apology at Peaceville's behest. They said that they had used arisk to mean true or pure, and that Jewish was Norwegian youth slang for idiotic. Dark Throne included the following statement within their next album, Panzerfaust, saying, "Dark Throne is certainly not a Nazi band nor a political band." Those of you who still might think so, he says something I don't want to repeat. More recently, Fenriz disowned these past statements, describing them as disgusting. He had admitted regret and noted that at the time he was going through a phase of being angry at several races. So
Melvins.
When I saw them with Ministry, they're all just weirdos. Like they're weirdos like they would have been back then, up there with like in that cluster of Primus and Ween.
I'll give you high autism. What about we put him to the side of Ween?
Even with the abrasiveness of Melvins.
It's still like a showy sort of thing that shows an air of
lack of virginity.
Gay shit. Yeah.
Yeah. They also like booted Kurt Cobain out of the studio for being too strung out on his bullshit. So,
that's kind of tough, yeah.
It is kind of, and I know we're not supposed to dip into the band themselves, but
Dystopia.
You're dealing with like two kind of guys that like Dystopia, I feel like. It's either they're like more neurotypical leaning and they're just kind of like dudes who are into like harder shit.
Yeah. I'm glad that you broached the topic of them being more neurotypical than autistic, because I was thinking, how the hell am I going to pitch this to everyone? When we were filming that Knocked Loose video, there were like multiple people with Dystopia shirts, and they were just like dudes in their 30s and 40s that had like a wife, and
yeah,
they were normal dudes. They just like really heavy shit.
So maybe like right above Joyce Manor even.
What if we put it under versus self?
That feels fair. That feels more than fair. Yeah.
Boris. Merzbow.
I'm going to do a 2-in-1 Land of the Rising Sun special. Boris, to put it simply, we are dealing with progressive, psychedelic, crazy shit. It feels safe to say putting them close to Black Country New Road is a safe decision. Are they as virginity-soaked as Black Country New Road? No.
Yeah, I'd say they would just pull back a bit.
Yeah, I know like they're Japanese and the whole like having an interest in Japanese shit is like kind of virgin soaked, like virgin behavior.
Well, it's autism behavior, less so specifically virgin. Let's stop pretending that autistic and virgin autistic are interchangeable.
100%.
Yeah. There's millions of autistic sex pests out there.
Yeah.
Like think about the
I'm looking at one right now. Merzbow is as crazy as you get. Look, I mean, we're just talking about noise at this point. My first instinct, I want to put him at the very corner of like pure autism and pure virginity. It's so antisocial. It's so just totally anti-music. It's just noise. Outside of the fact that autistic people are probably going to hear it and become overstimulated. They're going to be like, noise is too much. But even outside of that, I mean, you know, a lot of people like to use Merzbow as a way to kind of like pose, I'm in the inn. Like, I know about this shit. Like, I know about this kind of crazy music. At the end of the day, who's really a Merzbow fan?
Liturgy.
We're talking about the Dime Square adjacent black metal band from Brooklyn, New York. Just by virtue of being black metal, of course, it comes with a little bit of autism, it comes with a little bit of virginity.
Right.
More autistic, but more of like a positive brand of autism. The kind of people supporting their message, which a lot of the stuff that like Liturgy is always talking about between Twitter, like it seems to be like a lot of like theological, like positive talk, like about like spirituality and like kind of trying to better your soul.
Yeah, kind of bucking the trend of a lot of black metal.
Yeah, although it is still autistic. I mean, if we're talking about theology, that's a very like nerdy kind of autistic, you know, interest. They just don't deserve to be more autistic than Netspend. At least right now in 2024, feel safe and less virgin than Dark Throne. So
Found it on TikTok. This is a range of music that's associated with having TikTok audiences. If you get your music taste from TikTok, I can't really blame you. You probably have a really chill life because you're not consumed with thinking about music all the time, even though you probably can't imagine an apple in your head further than 3. Chapel Roan.
So this massive success of Chapel Roan right now, it's proof that there's no easier audience to shamelessly grift off of other than gay people. So you see, when you're an artist and you're backed by a label, you need some type of demographic to be able to tap into so that you can like emotionally connect with them and you get like really invested into who they are. For example, that's why country music is like so samey. It's because, okay, they're hitting on all the same things. There's already a group of people who are into those things.
Yeah.
So if I just come up and I like proclaim to believe in those things, then immediately they're going to fall in love with me and they'll have an emotional connection with me. There's this trend now where an artist backed by a label can come up and they can start doing that with gay people. All like a woman has to do is say like, oh yes, queen, like, oh I love drag, I love RuPaul, I'm queen of the gays, yes queen, or like whatever. You know, they do that whole thing.
Yeah. She makes music for fat bitches.
We're going to add in the female asterisk to this one.
Yeah.
We're going to be far over in the manipulator category. Obviously very neurotypical because she's very broadly appealing. She's very mainstream.
Now more than ever.
Dean Blunt.
Because he's reached a more like TikTokified audience, they are more in the camp of male manipulator. You're signaling like, yeah, like I listen to Dean Blunt. Like that says something. I wouldn't say a status thing, but it does say something about yourself. So it's not neurotypical. Right above Title Fight, or maybe right next to them. It's like, yeah, a little bit more down. Take it or leave it.
Charlie XCX.
She's obviously tapping into that whole like Red Scare type thing or like Chronically Online just by working with AG. I'm going to say this. Yeah, neurotypical leaning. It's not virgin territory. It's too zesty. Firmly in the lower left quadrant, male manipulator. It's not too zesty to be any further into male manipulator than it already is. So I feel like where it is now is probably safe.
Tommy Richmond.
The other day I saw like this kind of like Edgar type kid bumping this song, pulling up to like a Quick Trip gas station. Tommy Richmond is just pure fucking normie, like bullshit, stupid garbage. There's nothing to it. The whole like $1 Million Baby thing, whatever. Like I added it because it was popular on TikTok. There's not much to say about it. It's people are gonna forget about it by the end of 2024. I don't know what the rest of his career is gonna look like. No hate on him, but like fucking who cares, man? Whatever, who cares? Fuck you, Tommy Richmond.
Yeah.
Boa.
I really don't think they're as kind of autistic or as virgin as people say they are. I don't think they're any crazier than Black Cray, to be honest. I'd probably put them under Black Cray, close to Pavement. There's nothing that, crazily sticks out about them.
Kendrick Lamar.
In the last video, we had, our old rap category was called Enlightened Hip Hop Enjoyer, and Kendrick would have fit pretty snugly within there.
100%. And the only reason I have him here is because of the whole, beef shit that was happening. It was trending on TikTok. Right. It's timely, it's relevant, that's the point of this category. There is no way Kendrick will ever step into male manipulator territory, no matter how hard he wants to go with his whole certified lover boy, certified whatever. You're not, dude, you're Kendrick, dude. Like, you made To Pimp a Butterfly. You're never going to be that hard. Let's put him above Chief Keef. How about that? So he's like right split. Perfect.
Zach Bryan.
He's really spearheading that whole new type of country. It's less produced. And I have this whole theory behind what's going on. There's 2 Kurt Cobains reincarnate on this compass. The first one is obviously Netspend. 50% of it went into Netspend. The other half went into Zach Bryan. Here's what I mean by that. The parallels are striking between what grunge did to hair metal and what this new kind of country is doing to the traditional frat bro country. The looks are very important. It's hyper masculine. It seems like very fake and staged. Like there's a big persona element to it. Then all of a sudden, overnight, oh, it's just a dude with his guitar, he's singing his heart out, he's not trying to put on the front, you know? Zach Bryan is definitely in super turbo neurotypical.
100%.
I'm gonna leave my final decision on this, and here's my justification.
Right.
There are a lot of women that listen to Zach Bryan and really earnestly like it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of men that listen to Zach Bryan and earnestly want to fuck him.
Current joys.
Definitely not going to be in virgin territory.
Right.
Way too many bitches that love this shit.
Right.
A little bit more neurotypical than Dean Blunt. Yeah, like I'd put him right, like literally there. There we go. Yeah, that's current joys.
That's TikTok for you.
Shags and fags, as in cigs, obviously. I'm going to avoid making the same cringy jokes about the UK, but it's insane that they managed to influence culture so strongly with their music while failing at everything else. The streets.
The streets have found more appreciation in the US through the internet. I really haven't found as many like diehard streets fans. Now, it's got to be more chronically online leaning. I wouldn't say necessarily virgin territory. You have to have probably touched a girl to really fully appreciate them at all. About as neurotypical as the Joyce Manor. They're pretty much a mirror image of Joyce Manor to me when it comes to their place on the scale.
David Bowie.
Less neurotypical than Kendrick Lamar because of like the sexual kind of charge behind David Bowie's music and like the zany kind of like, you know, thing you'd have to appreciate his like zaniness. Edged into the left field of male manipulator.
I remember when David Bowie died, I was in high school, and the very day after when it happened, there was like a girl wearing a David Bowie shirt. She walked by me in the hall, and as she walked by, I pointed at her. I go, hey, you know, he's dead. And it didn't work. I thought I was going to get her attention.
The Beatles.
We were just calling Metallica the most neurotypical band of all time. The Beatles might supersede that.
Regardless of the experimental stuff, you're still pretty much dealing with a normie at the end of the day. I almost want to say more virgin territory because you got to be like...
agree with that.
What if we move Tommy Richmond over
There we go.
and we put the Beatles right here?
Yeah, just to spite Tommy Richmond.
Skepta.
Shut down. It's shut down. He did make that weird song about transgender people. Yeah, look that up. It's pretty interesting. I've literally only ever met one Skepta fan in my life. He was a chubby white kid. He was kind of appreciative that I knew about grime. I'm going to say now at this point, like if you have any appreciation for him, it's not male manipulator territory. It's not heavy into virgin territory, but it's also way more neurotypical leaning than autistic.
I feel like...
I want to say right next to Joyce Manor.
Oasis. Blur.
I'm going to be so real with you. Oasis, still to this day, the aura that oozes off of them is so like male manipulator, rock star, banging chicks and having a shag and a fag. I mean, they live up to the name of this category.
Right.
Like we did with Merzbow, I almost want them to be the representation of a real extreme on here.
I think it fits.
Yeah, I don't think they could go anywhere else. The Blur, on the other hand, they were just making a different kind of music. You can't compare the two. One was more like storytelling and kind of ironic and this kind of like sardonic like British thing, and one was like big stadium anthems. Neurotypical halfway because they're not on the same level of neurotypical as Oasis. Riding between male manipulator and virgin. And I say that because of Damon Albarn's, like, the kind of twink sex appeal he had at the time, but also because of, like, the virgin aspect of the lyrics and the kind of person you'd have to be to appreciate, like, the sardonic, kind of sad, and, you know, as things went on, kind of, like, emotional storytelling.
Massive Attack.
Clear as day to me. Male manipulator territory. Their music is just so sensual and crazy. Further male manipulator than the Streets, but on the same level of neurotypical as the Streets.
Cocteau Twins.
It is kind of a classic male manipulator band. Yeah. Maybe we can just put them halfway through. I mean, sensitive males are going to listen to the music forever, but doesn't always guarantee they're going to be male manipulators. Maybe halfway through between male manipulator and virgin, more autistic, just for 2024. And yeah, right near 1 Tricks Point Never seems to be pretty fair, honestly.
Mew Chart Essentials. Fortune doesn't really matter anymore when it comes to music, but we included this one for the sake of honoring all those people who got their music taste from Mew back in the day. The Magnetic Fields.
I don't think there's a single better, poignant, pointed, lethal album to pull out of the Rolodex if you're trying to impress a babe.
Yeah, you have to have, at some point, had a relationship with a girl for it to fully make sense. Right. Otherwise, why would you be listening to one of their biggest records? We could probably put them on top of Dean Blunt. How does that sound?
On top of Dean Blunt?
Maybe a little bit to the right.
That seems fair.
It seems fair.
Because the only thing I'm really strong about is the male manipulator tie.
Yeah.
Less so autistic to neurotypical. I'm like, it is what it is.
Yeah, it just is what it is.
Michael Jackson.
I'm just going to say this before I even put him on the chart. I don't think he really touched those kids. We'll never know if he really did. It's all speculation, I guess. If he didn't, I'm wrong. I'm really sorry. I'm saying that in advance so I don't get f***ed over. It really doesn't seem like he did, though. But he also had a pet monkey, so I don't know. Obviously neurotypical. Your parents are probably the best example of what a Michael Jackson fan looks like. And I mean, he is so far deep into neurotypical territory.
Beach Boys.
Look, there's two ways you can think about the Beach Boys. Brian Wilson, Beach Boys, eating raw meat, no Diddy. Yeah, heavy into autistic virgin territory. But then there's also like Kokomo, John Stamos, Beach Boys. What if we chose Beach Boys as the true middle? If you think about all the different eras they've had over time, they've done it all. They've captured that many people. So honestly,
Animal Collective.
When I was 12 or 13, I saw people on Mew talk about Animal Collective in a thread, and I listened to a couple songs. I was like, this is something I can definitely hold over someone else's head and be like, well, no, I'm cool for knowing what this is.
Right.
A couple days later, my older sister, she was driving us to school, and she was playing I didn't like look up to see what the band was. And I was in my passenger seat. I was like, hey, is this Animal Collective? And she was like, oh no, it's like XYZ. I didn't have like a strong formation of what Animal Collective sounded like at all. I just wanted to be able to say Animal Collective and be like, oh, this is like a band that like you don't know that I do.
You were testing out your aura.
Yeah.
Nowadays, the only person we really know who shows like a lot of love to Animal Collective is our podcast producer, Harry Potter.
That's right.
Literally his name, by the way, for those who are unaware.
Legal government name.
Certainly version. Not super autistic, because it is like a very like psychedelic thing.
I feel like it can peek over into neurotypical a bit here.
I'm confident with saying that because played it for my dad once. He's a Pink Floyd fan. He appreciated it.
Talking Heads.
How about less talking, more heads?
Yeah. David Byrne, I really think he sucked, dude. Like, honestly, like Talking Heads, like all this like naive melody bullshit. Yeah, it just sucks, dude. And I know we're talking about the fans. I just had to come out and say it. I'm the number one David Byrne hater, probably. Clearly in version territory. It's also in the sphere of autism. I mean, David Byrne's kind of autistic.
Yeah.
If you look at the kind of shit he was doing and how artsy he is and how weird, underneath Brave Little Abacus, I'd push him that far.
Yeah? Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Talking Heads, I think, are going over there.
Jeff Buckley.
Hoes love this man. And again, this is something that you don't see like a lot of quote unquote like hardcore Jeff Buckley fans nowadays or like young kids like going crazy on him. It's too sensitive and sweet and all of these things. And there's too many girls that like him. So it's obviously in male manipulator territory.
I think it's pretty far.
Yeah, at least with the potential.
Any guys watching? Gap in the market. It's like Jim Cramer. I'm going long on Jeff Buckley on manipulation stock.
We're giving you the keys to it
Press
right
the
now.
button.
We can put him like even like to the left of current joys. Like they're going off the scale.
Smashing Pumpkins.
That kid on TikTok who's like the male manipulator character.
Like the indie guy.
Yeah, he's always like, I heard you like Smashing Pumpkins. Like that's the joke. Yeah. So
as the sun goes down and the candles get lit, we become more manic and we tap into our energy. You're in the male manipulator madhouse. This is literally the lighthouse if we were making a bracket or
we don't even know what it is anymore. It's a compass. It's a fucking compass.
Sonic Youth.
More autistic than Talking Heads. To the left of Brave Little Abacus. Maybe not his version as Brave Little Abacus. I'd say at least above Modest Mouse.
Honorable mentions.
People that we felt the need to mention, but we couldn't really fit it anywhere else in the video.
Nirvana.
Neurotypical. They're too played out to be pure male manipulator, though.
Correct. Like, even in high school, if you're driving down the road, you'd see, like, a normal guy or a normal girl that had, like, friends and were normal.
Yeah.
That they'd, like, be playing Nirvana with the windows down, like, in their Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm happy with how we tilted it a bit towards Virgin, because, like, I guess in 2024, maybe it's slowly starting to eek.
It's also the fact that like their whole aura is so tinged with like, the whole like depressive, like outcast, like alternative thing that they'll never be able to escape that. That's just Nirvana, guys. That's what you think about when you think about 90s music.
The Descendants.
We're going to talk about punk one time as a treat for people that for some reason want us to talk about that. So hold it in. They're actually the real, for real, no joke, actual OG male manipulator music. If you like read the lyrics, like that's what this shit's really about. Due to the fact that it's punk, and due to the fact that a lot of their ethos is behind, I'm going to stand out as much as I can, they're going to be up towards autism.
And it's 2024, so to be a fan of the Descendants,
it's got to be even worse than that.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about the band, not to be confused with the movie series, the Disney original movie, The Descendants.
Right.
Ian.
the modern day Gucci Mane. He really leans into the, yeah, I'm white. What are you gonna do about it?
The what are you gonna do about it? It sounds
like ominous.
Yeah, it's like, what are you gonna do?
If you took the last rap battle from 8 Mile and turned it into an entire career, that's like what Ian's doing right now. Outside of like using his music to manipulate women, would you say that he leans more towards, I'm probably gonna like do some shit that's gonna snag me, you know, a chick or something?
They don't struggle as much with their riz or their game as someone more autistic would. So
he looks like every high school frat guy, which he does on purpose. Again, that's part of his brand.
Right.
Jeff Rosenstock.
Jeff Rosenstock is to the right of Sufjan Stevens and a little bit higher up, like right below Fleshwater, in between Sufjan Stevens and Fleshwater. There's not as much potential for it to be male manipulator core, I think, as Sufjan Stevens. And the people that listen to it are a little bit more virgin-y, kind of nerdy, meaning that it gets pushed more into the virgin sphere and pushed up a little bit higher on the scale of autism, but not too far from Sufjan Stevens.
Gil Gilbert's Experiments in Putty.
We know Gil Gilbert is a good friend.
Yeah.
He acts neurotypical, but his history is so autistic.
He's definitely not a virgin. I feel like he's right below the Descendants.
The nature of his favorite activity, you know, making putty, that's autistic. Yeah. He's also gay. So, and he has sex with a lot of men.
Yeah.
P. Diddy.
It feels like we're kind of like in a Diddy party right now. Hopefully he doesn't pop up right behind us. We can't even talk about his music because who the cares about P. Diddy's music?
Him as a person, male manipulator, in a like a really weird, up, complicated way. Yeah. That's the most obvious thing here. Is he on the spectrum? For sure. I've got a video right now that I can look up that proves that P. Diddy's on the spectrum. He was obviously showing an autistic meltdown he had from being overstimulated. Yeah. Autistic male manipulator. Duh. I put him above Laserdimn, and I put him more virginal than Black Country New Road.
And one other thing I'd like to say about that.
Blood on the Dance Floor.
You are the heart that beats inside of me. If you give up tonight, you give up on me. So don't go out like a teenage tragedy. So don't go out like a teenage tragedy.
Probably next to P. Diddy. Yeah.
If you're a person that would identify as being extremely online, terminally online, chronically online, etc., whatever you want to call it, or maybe you just don't fit in the small town that you're from, check out Neopunk XM. We have something for you there. You might find it very useful.
AIDS. Gay. AIDS. Gay. Classic.
I think that's a